right, hello, hello. We're back. Let's see. House and Fata Morgana, Assento Dele tonight. Since, yeah, we had that whole thing with reincarnation when we started it. Now we stopped it. We put it on pause because we didn't actually do all of a Requiem for Innocence. Whoops. But we are back tonight. We are doing a makeup stream. So if you're sitting there going, wait, this isn't your normal day, that's why. I missed Sunday due to a migraine. And so, yeah, we're going to make it up tonight. So, yeah, I don't really have anything like major to talk about this today. I was even thinking about it before stream and went, yeah, I should start with this. And I go live and I just can't remember anything. But if you are new here, I'm Kelsey. You're going to hear me talk a lot because I'll be reading a lot. But this is my first time playing, so I am really enjoying everything and very excited to see Michael again. Like, I've missed him, even if it is like past Michael before Giselle. So we'll see how this all goes. Let's go ahead and recap and then just jump in. So, Assento Dele kicks off with Didier and Michel riding horseback to home and talking about their family. Georges was being a chaotic artist for a chateau piece and roasted everyone. Lydia showed her children a painting of the Castagnier heiress who needs to marry someone, but none of them were interested despite the Bollinger succession crisis. Michael woke up from that memory a decade later. Morgana told Michael to kill the emaciated body on his doorstep, but instead he removed their mask and saw a bandaged face and took in Emion out of curiosity. He was snarky and talkative and insisted on staying in the house to look for a wish from the witch. Morgana is baffled that Michael asked her about Emion's wish, but rejected the offer for one himself. Emion investigated the house, thought about how he's treated as a leper, and talked about selling the religious art. Emion asked why Michael didn't care about his diseased face. I'm doing really good at reading today, which is always a good start. And was caught off guard by Michael's frank answer. They talked about God and their lives in the pursuit of their goals, as Michael warned about Morgana not being trustworthy and told him to make sure he's out of the house before he dies. Michael opted to cover the stained glass window to his surprise, and as they struggled to move stuff, Emion talked about being written off as a demon child that only Michael can understand. Yeah, I mean, we seem to be vibing. So I'm a little worried about how this is all going to go wrong. Like, this can't be that long. One of us is going to die soon, and in theory, it's not going to be us. So, I don't know. Let's find out. Into the serious voice now. From time to time, Emion and I would have supper together. I wasn't going out of my way to spend time with him, but I didn't particularly mind it either. I had no reason to. We stayed out of each other's business, and we both knew it was a temporary arrangement. As his disease worsened, his once exasperating vigor started to seem more and more obviously like a facade. When he spoke, it was like I could hear the remnants of his fading soul spill out with each gravelly syllable. It was getting difficult to make out what he said at all. But still, he persisted to act as though nothing was wrong around me. So I acted in kind, making sure not to touch on his deteriorating condition. You know, we never did get around to talking about my adventures. Nobody's stopping you. Exactly. Michael just draws a line on the floor and goes, this is my side. You get to stay on your side until you die. Then your side is outside. But this side is my side. Don't talk to me. You could just be honest and say you want to hear them. I can see it in your eyes. You love adventure stories. Not only that, you want to go on some yourself. This is so tragic. Just knowing how he dies. And like the most adventure that we went on was in the house. I hate that. I hate that realization. Michael. I hate that. That could not be further from the truth. Alright, let's see. How about the story of the battle in the Northlands? About 5 years back, I was traveling the lands far north. Heavy snowfall covered the land into the winter, stretching as far as the eye can see, and with the arrival of spring, it would melt and rejuvenate the earth. It was a lot colder up north than it is down here, but the lands were fertile nonetheless. And naturally, where there's fertile land, there's people fighting over it. Two countries, one to the east and one to the west, vied for control over this particular area. I watched the battle from the safety of a nearby hill. The theater for this battle was a large plain, a sea situated to the north. Separating the two was a river flowing south from the sea. It wasn't a very deep river, though. Both horses and infantry could cross it, albeit with some difficulty. The Western Army attacked first. They outnumbered and were better equipped than the Eastern Army, their soldiers well trained and commanders sharp. Planning and organization allowed them to cross the river with ease. And once they were on the other side, they stormed the Eastern Army. Now, how do you suppose the battle went? It wouldn't make for a very good story if the Western Army simply went on to defeat the Eastern Army. Because you're asking, I presume the Eastern Army had something up their sleeve? Geez, you're the worst kind of person to tell a story to, buddy. Play along at least, would ya? I hate to burst your bubble, but I am not a child listening to a bedtime story. Well, you're right about one thing. I would have framed things differently if the Western Army was gonna win. Maybe gone into detail about how advanced their equipment was, how strong their soldiers were, name-dropped a commander or two. But no, the Western Army did not conquer the Eastern Army. In fact, they were both defeated. Oh? Yep, thanks to the intervention of a third force. Now, where do you suppose this mysterious third force came from? It was the Danes. You've got to be kidding me. You suck at this! Given what you described, two sides divided by a river flowing from a sea to the north, the larger Western Army crossing over it to take the Eastern Army by surprise, the logical conclusion is that a third force would travel down the aforementioned river. Neither side had ships able to sail such shallow waters, so they didn't anticipate an attack from the river. The Danes to the north, however, have numerous ships capable of exactly that. That's why they're feared as the Lords of the Sea. Yep, that's exactly right. Thanks for skipping all the good parts and going straight to the answer. A fleet of ships with dragon heads on both ends sailed down the river after the Western Army crossed, quickly making land. The Danes are fearsome warriors, and big boys at that. They attacked both armies from behind, taking them out in no time, and the land fell into the hands of the invaders from the north. Then, once it was all over, I hauled ass right the hell out of there. I've only read of the Danes' fearsome prowess in books. For you to witness an actual ambush. Jealous? See what I tell ya! You're all about these adventure stories. I am not. Well, I sure am. The Danes, they can travel both shallow waters and the open sea. The whole world is at their fingertips. Everyone just thinks they're savages. They don't see their potential. I wonder what's out there, across the seas. What wondrous world awaits beyond those waters? I bet it's heaven on earth out there. A land unlike anything you can find traveling on foot. So long as man infests the surface, you will find no heaven on this earth. I knew you weren't a people person, but hot damn, you're worse than I ever imagined. You can't make it through life on misanthropy and cynicism alone. Someone needs to teach you how to dream, buddy. Dreams are just that. Fantasies never to be realized. Dreams are freedom. Doesn't matter if you're sick or a sinner, infirm or exiled, you can go anywhere inside your head. You have complete and absolute freedom in your dreams. All empty hopes and dreams do is erode the spirit. I gave up on mine for a reason. If I were in good health, I could have asked the Danes to take me on one of their longships. Bring me somewhere far, far away from here. A place where everyone's equal. No poor and no rich to oppress them. No one being judged for their looks or the family they were born into. I could have gone on another adventure. Brought you along this time. Found our paradise. pretty sure the only way you're getting on a longship is as a captive to the Danes. Remember what I said about dreams? Like 3 seconds ago? Shove that silly realism into a box and lock it up. You can dream whatever sort of crazy, outrageous nonsense you. Emil, don't worry about. Okay, so back to story time. After I escaped from the Danes, I crossed paths with this incredible bard. This one's gonna blow your mind, I'm sure. I'm sure. I didn't tell him not to push himself. He knew his own condition far better than me. I didn't have to tell him continuing was a bad idea. My role was to be quiet and listen. Imion then sung for me a song he supposedly learned from the bard. I could sing way better than this back then, he said with a strained laugh before beginning the raspy ballad. Every note melted into a sort of indistinct flat buzz, but it was still somehow pleasant to listen to. Perhaps because I could imagine what his voice may have sounded like in its prime. A bright, optimistic, unwavering, powerful voice. All the more enchanting because it existed only in my imagination. As I listened to him sing, so much that I'd kept sealed away slowly crept back to the surface. I felt like I was being whisked away into a far distant world by the tales of his exploits and the bard's song. With Imion, his hand held out, waiting to take mine. The words, "Let's set off to a new world, buddy," on his lips. But his time on this earth was drawing to a close. Those fantasies faded to fade into nothing. You aren't seriously going to make friends with him, are you? I thought you were better than that. Or do you think you'll get something out of this? Well, you're sorely mistaken. You've forgotten what you truly are, and gotten it into your head that you can be equals with him. Your heart brims with delight, yet here you are, grasping at companionship, knowing full well it's but a fleeting illusion. What do you have to gain from forging a friendship with him? Already tired of me, are you, my dear? Very well. I shall take my leave. Despite what they may say, I'm a very kind-hearted girl. To those whose fates are sealed, that is. I pray you're blessed with wonderful dreams tonight. Exactly. If I were into guys, I might consider holding your hand. Look, I obviously we've got to wait in the mansion for Giselle. But if there were an alternate way to go, let's just go on an adventure with Amion. That seems like fun, right? Wait, although any Morgana getting offered like let me show you the world didn't really work out for her, so maybe it's not a good thing for Michael either in hindsight. That night, I had a dream. Not a nightmare, nor a dream of the past. A warm, pleasant, slightly bittersweet dream. I hadn't had one like this in quite some time. An endless field stretched out before us. We pushed our way through the sea of waist-high grass, pressing onward towards the ever-distant horizon. A spring breeze whisked past, caressing my cheek. At my side stood a man beaming as bright as the sun. He had hair of deep scarlet, like the color of the setting sun. His eyes were unflinching, his lips showing his strong resolve. His chest was smooth and muscular, and he had a musky scent. It was my first time seeing his face, but I knew exactly who he was. Not much farther now, the man spoke. Our paradise is just up ahead. His lips curled up. It was a smile that might look condescending on any other face, but on his it seemed perfectly natural, not a trace of disdain. In fact, Anything but a cocky smirk would have seemed out of place, which made reality that much more bitter. Here on the other side of the sea, in this beautiful land, no one will think less of us for anything. If someone happens to find out about you, no one's going to make a big deal out of it. And no one's going to be afraid of my disease. I was well aware of the fact that it was a dream, and I thought it a rather cruel one. Emeon was right. I did love adventure stories, and I did want to go on one of my own. This was the very thing I had wished for since I was a child. Two men setting out together, free from obligations, on a journey to see the world, exploring the unknown and sharing that experience with a dear friend. But it could never happen. Not so long as I was who I was, and not so long as Emeon was sick and on the verge of death. It was a dream we could never make come true, no matter how badly we wanted it, no matter how hard we fought for it. It wasn't an entirely impossible dream, though. There was one part of it that could become reality. The two of us becoming friends. There was probably enough time before he died for me to get close enough to tell him how I really felt. That I just wanted a friend. That I wanted to be able to laugh and frown and get upset like an ordinary guy. Like him. There may be time, but that's not enough. I had spent too much of my life isolated. I had almost irreversibly adapted to the solitude. Breaking through that shell would be no easy task, especially not with my unspeakable secret hovering over me. The very fact of my nature, which had transformed me from the namesake of an angel into an abominable demon that didn't deserve to live. Something I couldn't tell anyone, couldn't let anyone find out. Which meant that a normal friendship was impossible for me to form. And I knew that far too well. Exactly, you can't catch me, gay thoughts. I want Michael to have a friend. He needs a buddy. And the only three guys that he got to know were all kind of fairly terrible people. So, if Emil's a good person, let Michael make friends before this poor guy dies. That night, I had a dream. Not a nightmare, nor a dream of the past. A warm, pleasant, slightly bittersweet dream. I hadn't had one like this in quite some time. An endless field stretched out before us. We pushed our way through the sea of waist-high grass, pressing onward towards the ever-distant horizon. A spring breeze whisked past, caressing my cheek. At my side stood a man with a somewhat forlorn look on his face. He had long silver hair that fluttered in the wind. A darkness was visible beneath the pale red of his eyes, and his lips were furled into a half scowl. He was tall enough that I had to look up at him. The man furrowed his brow, as if to scorn the shining sun for daring to be brighter than the candlelight he was so used to. It was my first time getting a good look at him. I might have gotten some of the smaller details wrong, but he was still very distinctly the Michael I knew. I pointed toward the horizon and said, "That's where our paradise awaits." He didn't seem to believe we would actually find anything, but still he joined me on my endless journey with nary a complaint. So all it takes is bringing him into my dreams to drag the cynicism out of him, huh? I thought. Then with a laugh I said, "We would make pretty good friends, don't you think?" His eyes swam for a few moments before he finally muttered a response. Many years ago, I dreamed of having something like that. You gotta be a little more specific. Like my two brothers. Keep going. Someone I could share anything with, and could do the same with me. Someone who understands me without need of words. The classic image of a friend. Two guys who have always got each other's backs. Michael crossed his arms and turned his head away. He might have even blushed, but I couldn't see for sure. I had mixed feelings, though mostly I was glad to hear he felt that way, and I wanted to make that dream come true. We'll be just like that. You'll see, buddy. Another breath of wind blew past. I was pretty sure I was smiling. The way I always did. The way I always pretended to. My self-confident, utterly vacuous smirk. If we really got to know each other, there was no way we would ever be friends. True friendship was impossible to achieve between us, and I knew that far too well. Yeah, I don't know if he's got power. He's got to have some sort of power over dreams, or he's just dreaming weirdly of Michael. I awoke in darkness in a house where the time of day held no meaning. The same sight awaited me every morning. Before I had grown fully accustomed to a world without light, the uncertainty of it had occasionally morphed into fear. My instincts reacting, I presumed. Danger was harder to perceive in the dark, after all. But once I had gotten used to it, the darkness felt almost compassionate with its indiscriminating embrace. And now, I was more stable here than I was in the light. This morning was an unusually pleasant one, though. All my problems were still problems, my curses still curses, but it felt like I had managed to break the surface and catch my breath for the first time in who knows how many years. Perhaps I could thank the dream I'd had. I rolled out of bed, grabbing the candlestick off my nightstand. With the remains of the mostly melted old one, I lit a new candle and headed for the door. Next on my list was the fireplace. I tried to make sure there was always at least a small flame in it. But as soon as I stepped out into the hall, what are you doing there? I found myself face to face with Emil. Although that wasn't an entirely accurate description, as he was slouched against the wall across from my door. Mornin', Michael. I couldn't help but cringe at the sight of him, still insisting on keeping up his everything's all right act. What are you doing? Seems pretty obvious to me. Well, it isn't to me. You're clearly in no condition to be walking around. It's come. What has? My time. The light from the candle fluttered about, slightly offset from the trembling of my bony hand. But Emil, he was visibly shaking, enough that I probably could have seen it even without the dim candlelight. Not out of fear or cold, but simply a physiological reaction to his condition. His breath sounded like puffs of wind, the whoosh of a bitter winter morning echoing in the hall. His arms and legs were so atrophied that if I didn't know better, I might think him a small tree withering away in the fierce cold at first glance. My gaze slowly drifted downward, stopping at his splayed arms. Blotches of red were visible on the palms of his hands. Did you cough that up? I almost reflexively made to draw nearer, but he stopped me after only one step. No, stay back. Don't touch me. You might catch it. We've been living here together, breathing the same air. If I were going to catch it, I would have already. The fact that I haven't shows that it's not an infectious disease. Maybe, maybe not. But either way, you shouldn't touch the blood. You know, as well as I do, that blood is unclean. It carries everything in our bodies, even diseases. You may be able to catch it from the blood, even if you didn't from anything else. So I figured I'd drop on by, say my goodbyes. Say your... I stopped myself before finishing the sentence, realizing how foolish it would make me sound. I was the one who had told him to leave when he knew his time was up. But that was back then. That was just how I felt when he first showed up. If I'm real lucky, I have maybe a couple days left. I've been hiding it, but it's been hard to even stand these last few days. And you did a terrible job of it. Although, I didn't realize you were in quite such bad shape. Well, I guess I get a passing score on my acting then. How can you laugh about this? I'm in a great mood. is ridiculous. You can't be... Just drop the act already. It's no act, bud. I'm serious. I'm feeling great. I had a fantastic time. And what better way to show that than with a nice laugh? Looking down on this man laughing as death crept closer, I didn't feel pity or sorrow or anguish. I was angry. My chest clenched and my stomach lurched. How aggravating! There was something else there too, some other way I could describe it. But I didn't know what the feeling was. I couldn't draw it to the surface. It was aggravating, frustrating, sickening. Those simple negative emotions were what I kept falling back to. I wanted to block it all out. Imyon's deteriorating body, that comforting dream, my own circumstances, this dark mansion, the whole world. I had an amazing time here with you. Seriously. Stop it. You're just getting sentimental, letting your emotions cloud your memory. I've done nothing for you. Think about your time before you got sick, when you were with your friends and family. Think about the time you spent traveling. Then you'll realize how insignificant your time here really was. It was all a lie. What? I was never a traveler. My name isn't even Emyon. I never went to the Northlands, and I never saw the Danes. Even what I said about having a ton of friends, all lies. Here's the truth. I look like I came from the slums now, but I was born into a decently upper-class family. My father and brothers all owned several estates. I wasn't traveling when I got sick, but at home. And for a while I was kept locked up to keep it under wraps. I spent my life doing everything asked of me for them. And they turned on me the second I caught this damn disease. The servants I thought respected me, the brothers I thought loved me, they all wanted nothing to do with me anymore. And before long, they started saying it was punishment for my transgressions, that I was cursed to transform into a hideous monster, because I deserved it. Real swell family, huh? The disease hadn't progressed this far then either, so I still looked, well, half decent at least. A pretty damn good-looking guy, if I do say so myself. So I used that to manipulate one of the maidservants into helping me escape. And that's how my life as a nomad really began. So while I was something of a traveler, I was carrying some pretty big luggage along with me. Everywhere I went, I was treated like garbage. The Emyon you met, brimming with self-confidence, was all an act. I'm sorry for lying to you. Why? Why'd I pretend to be someone I'm not? Because... No, I don't care about that. Why didn't you say something sooner? Emyon's story, his life, was painfully similar to my own. I'd been called a demon, mocked and insulted, made out to be a madman, and then locked away where no one could see me. Everyone I had thought to be on my side turned against me. You should have told me. Cracks began to form in the thick shell I had spent so long building around myself. Sharp claws dug their way through the flesh of my heart, which I had thought long since numb. Thick blood seeped from within me. It was absurd. If anyone here was hurting, it was Emyon. If I had known, if I had known, I could have done something. Was that where I was going with this? That I could have told him about my own past, and we could have bonded over our suffering? No, that wasn't how it would have gone. If Emyon had told me what he had been through right off, I would have seen so much of myself in him that I'd have likely detested him for it. I wouldn't have wanted to get to know him better. I wouldn't have wanted to even see him. I suspected pretty early on that you'd been through something similar. That you weren't here of your own will, and from your mannerisms that you came from a noble family. Which is why I didn't want to say anything. I didn't want you to think that was why I was here. I didn't stay because we both led tragic lives. That's not why I found it so comfortable here. Everything about how I presented to you was a facade, which is precisely why I was able to be myself. I can't tell you how wonderful it felt for you to accept me for me. I didn't. You didn't have to do anything. That was enough to set me free. I could feel sweat trailing down the back of my neck. I couldn't follow along, couldn't make sense of what he was saying. My heart was wavering, but I couldn't put any of it into words. What were you supposed to say to that? I hadn't the first idea. And with the way I had lived my life, the way I had closed myself off, I never would know. So I want to thank you. Goodbye, Michael. Emion let out a long sigh, like his nerves had loosened all at once now that he had said his piece. He then climbed to his feet using the wall for support, let out a couple muffled coughs, and started off down the hall, leaving me behind. Oh, that's a good question. Is Emion a Barnier? Maybe. Oops. Like, I don't know that there's anything that, like, says he is, but we don't know that many noble families, so. What I'm finding interesting is that we lead very similar lives, but Morgana hasn't offered him her power, despite the fact that, you know, he probably also could take revenge on his family. I don't know, something's not adding up for me still. I don't know. Wait, Emion! The shackles around my spirit were on the verge of coming off. Everything I'd worked so hard to bury was bubbling to the surface. The man I had killed in order to survive in this empty darkness was being infused with life anew. I was opening myself up. Wait, I lied too. Or, I mean, what I said then isn't true now. I don't want you to leave anymore. I don't care if you've only got a few days left. You'll last longer here than you will out there. So, what, you're gonna take me in and nurse me? Exactly. Emion. It's damn tempting, but no thanks. Why? I'm sorry. Why? The first person I'd ever met who I could have possibly called an equal, a friend, was trying to withdraw from my life. Forever. Something inside me cracked, and something inside me formed anew. Morgana, oh no, I thought maybe we were going this way. Oh no. Why are we getting Morgana involved? Don't do this, Michael. Okay, yeah, fair. So the other noble families we know of are Bollinger, Barnier, Joubert, and Castanier. So I guess it could be any of them, or it could be someone else. I don't know if we'll ever find out. Okay, well, let's use the evil magic for what we're going to hope is a good thing, and have it likely backfire on us. Morgana. Morgana! I know you're listening. Michael. Cure him, please! That's enough, Michael. The witch isn't just a legend. She doesn't have a physical form, but she lives here, in this mansion. And she's somewhere nearby, watching everything. Really, it's okay. Believe me. I do believe you. Emil. It's okay. Thank you. Why are you so insistent on leaving? Didn't you want to talk to the witch? I just think now's the best time to call it quits. But why? I do feel bad about this, for what it's worth. And I'm seriously grateful for you, too. That doesn't tell me why. I want you to take what you're feeling right now and keep it with you. You... What? Seeing the person in yourself will help you see the person in someone else when you next have that chance. Whoever that is, you take them by the hand and get out of here. Go somewhere you both want to be. You may not find paradise, but you'll have a life. What on earth are you talking about? All right, now I'm seriously on my last legs. Can't even fake that I'm okay anymore. Emion. So long. Wait! Michael? I think we made pretty good friends, don't you? And with that, he marched off down the dark hallway. It was almost unbelievable how sure-footed he seemed compared to only a few moments earlier. And then I realized what it was. His final show of self-confidence. I could have easily caught up to him, but my feet seemed to be rooted to the ground. Maybe because I knew that even if I stopped him, it wouldn't stop me from losing him. Because anything I did would amount to nothing. I slowly dropped to my knees. The candlestick spilled from my hand, the flame flickering out, a heavy darkness draping the hallway. I covered my face and let out a sharp, bitter groan. He had lived here less than a month. We barely knew each other well enough to call ourselves acquaintances, never mind friends. There was no reason for me to be feeling this emptiness. But telling myself that didn't make the pain go away. The pain of having something dear snatched away from you. A pain I had never, ever wanted to have experienced again. I thought I could hear the witch cackling, whispering that opening myself up had only made me vulnerable. That bringing that dying man into my house was only ever going to leave me feeling all the more lonely. That I always belonged in darkness, not light. Exactly, Morgana over there like he has red hair just like mine. Fuck him. Okay, we're going to follow Emion though, so he's not just going to go die, or maybe he is and we're going to watch him die. Thank God he left the bar off. I barely got enough in me to push the door open. Is that really how you want to do this? I called it. Maybe not called it, but I did point out that we were gonna get here. Oh, it's you. Well, color me surprised. I figured you'd be with Michael. I'm here to see you off for him. You mean you decided you'd get more entertainment out of me? A girl with long braided hair stood before me, a smile spread across her lips. Her form was vague, almost a silhouette, and I couldn't make out any details. But I still knew exactly who she was. This wasn't my first encounter with the witch, after all. What? Huh? What did I miss? I'd been able to see her and hear her voice since shortly after arriving at the mansion. What? When I'd told Michael that I believed she had existed, I wasn't just saying it. I knew. You're quite the seasoned liar. Making out like you're coming clean, and then replacing one set of lies with another. You can still go back and make it right. Tell him the truth, and you'll have my wish. Think about it, my dear. A few days after taking up lodging at the mansion, the witch appeared before me. She spoke in a pretty but almost childlike voice, explaining how unusual it was that I could see her. Because evidently, no one with a trace of hope in their heart is capable of seeing me. They can't hear my voice or even sense my presence. The despair that coursed through Michael is what serves as the catalyst for my resurrection. You're not here to be healed. You want to put a curse on someone, don't you? That's right. Your eyes don't lie. I'm honestly kind of floored right now. First, the Witch of Legend is real, and second, she's not even human. A mortal could neither cause miracles nor cast curses. Fair enough. So, how'd you know what I really wanted? It was obvious, my dear. All that murky filth swirling beneath your smiling visage is like a window directly into your soul. Sounds like there's no hiding anything from you, so I can just drop the act, huh? Tell me you at least can't hear everything I'm thinking. And what if I can? I would appreciate a little bit of privacy. Fear not, my dear. I don't have the ability to read your mind, no. But you should know that the world as you living see it, and the world as I see it, are very different things. Emotions, such as your seething animosity and desire to curse, as well as fragments of your memory, are all laid bare to me. I normally wouldn't bother sparing anyone a moment of my time. I have a mission to accomplish, and I would like Michael to accompany me on the long journey to its completion, so I don't have time to distract myself with anything else. If you were indeed nothing but a needlessly optimistic fool come in search of miracles, I would have done everything in my power to chase you out. So I can assume that the fact that I'm still here means you've taken at least something of an interest in me then. Indeed, for you were broken enough to come seeking me. There we go. I can't read minds, but I don't need to for me to see how hot you think Michael is. Look, everyone should be able to look at Michael and go, how are you this gorgeous? And I don't know that you own a hairbrush. Like, what sort of physical grooming does this man actually do? Like, how does he look like that? It's not fucking fair. Then I'll get straight to the point. I want you to curse my family. Every last one of those damn Castagnets. Well, not a Barnier. Is this guy? I wonder if this is maybe the girl that was going to get married. That's my final wish. The last thing I want from this life. I gave my whole life for my family, sacrificed everything, and they repay me with derision. Hell, making me into a demon. I'm here, sick and miserable, and no one gives a rat's ass. They need to experience the living hell I had to endure. I can't go into peace. I can't go in peace until they have. It would be my pleasure. Wait, seriously? What, do you not believe me? I No, I just didn't think it would be that easy. On one condition, though. I will offer my sincerest wishes for your family's utter devastation, so long as you offer me something in return. Now that sounds more like the witch I was expecting. So what do you want from me? My life? A sack of gold? My resources are a bit limited, but let's hear it. Michael's spirit. Excuse me? I told you I wanted Michael to accompany me on my journey, but too much of his worldly concerns remain for him to be any use to me right now. He still racks his mind over trifling drivel. That's stone-faced Michael? He has actual worries? It's all an act. For now, that is. I want you to crush his spirit, transform him into something more fitting for my purposes. And then I will make your wish mine. That sweet voice makes what you're asking all the more frightening. So, how do I go about it? Start by using your head, my dear. It was worth a shot. That said, I will give you a hint. You have at your disposal everything you need to become exactly what he desires most. It didn't take long around Michael to figure out what the witch meant. There was one thing he very clearly sought, and it was something I was, presently, capable of making myself into. I had everything one would need to slip through the cracks in the wall around his heart. I was on the verge of death. I didn't know a thing about him or his personal life, and I was a man. Michael seemed to have trust issues when it came to women. He had no interest in a lover or a romantic partner, but a peer, a male friend. I guessed Michael had probably been subjected to countless betrayals over the years. His mother, father, siblings, loved ones, but probably never at the hands of a friend. I doubted he'd even ever had a real friend before. So Morgana's proposal was for me to become his friend and then betray him. Yep. Yeah, I mean, I think that I think that's maybe what Amion was hoping he could do, right? Where he could befriend Michael and then die and not have to do the actual betraying. And the curse would still, go because at the end of the day it did the right thing, but I have a feeling Morgana's not into that. Girl wants like reality TV levels of drama that I don't want to see Michael crushed to pieces. That's my son. There's still time for you to go back in there and reveal everything, to see your wish to fruition. You could even ask for a miracle instead of a curse, to rid what ails you. Don't bother. I'm not interested in any of that anymore. I'm just going to go back out into the forest and die. So, nope, you won't get me to go back there. I don't understand. What on earth brought you to this decision? I stopped caring about getting back at my family. That hatred was what had kept me going for so long. It was what had driven me to wander in search of the cursed mansion. I had, in service of it, feigned getting friendly with Michael until, at some point, it stopped being fake. I had found something more valuable than petty vengeance, and I wanted to live the rest of my life, and then die, for that. With a bit more time, maybe I could have even told him that he'd pulled me up from such a dark place. And then, were it within my power, I'd like to have done the same for him. But that was a dream beyond my reach. He would have to remain in his darkness for a while yet. I can understand losing interest in cursing them, but you're ignoring the other part of my offer. That I could wish for a miracle. Perhaps you don't believe the cursed witch can perform miracles, but you would be mistaken, my dear. In life, do you know what I was called? A saint. Well, you're a saint with one hell of a mean streak. My, now that was hardly called for. I'll pass on your miracle, too. Can't imagine it comes free of charge when the curse had a price. You want me to go in and tell him everything, right? What do you have to lose? What possible reason could there be for you to hesitate? That should be obvious, even to you. I want him to think of me as a friend. That is what he wanted, after all. A peer. A male friend. So if I'm going to go, I want to go out as that. You would give up your chance at life for something so utterly meaningless? I don't care how stupid you think it is. I didn't have enough time to pull him out of his dark place. But if at least he remembered me as a friend, and that had some positive effect on him, however insignificant, I much preferred that to anything the witch was proposing. Just don't you go blabbing once I'm gone. Why would you give her that idea? She will start blabbing. I can't make any promises, my dear. You say a word to him, and I'll curse you. My heavens, are you picking a fight with a witch? Do you honestly believe you can curse me? You bet I can. I could well turn into a witch just like you, once I'm dead. You very well could. You have all the makings of a fine witch. But you can rest easy, my dear. I won't be saying anything to him about you, because you're too inconsequential to be worth mentioning again. I beg your pardon? At the end of it all, the only one Michael truly needs is me. What he wants is a curse, and I am the only one who can provide it. You pretended to be his friend for a few weeks, but in a year's time, that memory will have eroded away into nothing. Your death will amount to nothing. All you did was cast a light on his isolation. And sooner or later, it'll transform him into an inhuman spirit who lives only to spread curses, much like myself. Now that I can say you're wrong about. There's more care and understanding in him than you realize. He hides it, but it's there. Don't fool yourself. The whole world isn't going to bend to your whims, Morgana. There was nothing left that I could do. I couldn't leave any more of a mark on him, nor could I free him from her grip. But someday, someone would appear. Man, woman, friend, lover, it didn't matter. Someone would enter his life, take him by the hand, and lead him out of this cursed mansion. Someone would drag him out of his darkness. Well, you turned out to be quite the disappointment. Everything I once saw in your eyes has been purified away into nothingness. Mark my words, all your hopes will be in vain. And you can watch from the afterlife, helpless as everything I said comes to pass. And I'll be praying from the pearly gates that you're wrong. Well, this is where we part ways then. Farewell, Noemi, until our souls cross paths once more in this boundless sphere of fate. Yeah, I'm gonna guess that she's got to be the Castagna daughter. Wow, I can talk today. Looks like this is as far as I go. Can't say a damn thing anymore. But hey, it could be worse. I feel like I've been set free, like all my shackles have been loosed. I found one thing to appreciate about this disease. It gave me the one chance in my life to be myself. Hey, Michael, we're not that different after all. You were my first friend, too. My real name was Noemi Castagnier. Emion, the name I went by, was just my first name spelled backwards, but truth be told, I was pretty fond of it. Anything else I might have come up with would have probably given away my gender straight off. Nearly everything I'd told Michael was a lie. From claiming I was a guy to the story of my escape, I hadn't used my good looks to trick a maidservant into helping, but instead manipulated a manservant. But looking back on it now that it was all over, I felt like the fake me, Emion, was more me than the real thing. I'd always felt constricted my whole life. Nothing but barriers from the day I was born. I loved playing music, writing stories, running, riding a horse, swinging a sword, anything that gave me some sort of freedom. But I was only allowed that until I was about 10 years old, at which point my life became training and everything I needed to be married off to some nobleman. I still remembered those days vividly, sitting stone still, staring out the window while I had my portrait painted. I caught sight of a large bird taking off to fly north, watching it flap its heavy wings. I fantasized about riding the bird off somewhere far away, to a beautiful, boundlessly lush land no one had ever seen before. I would found my own nation, and I would be its first citizen. It would be a land without unfair rules and customs, a land where everyone was equal, man, woman, young, old, a smile on everyone's face. And you would be free to choose who you spent your life with. There would be no nobility, and there would be no slaves. And in this land, I would finally be able to find my true self. Michel? Michel? Oh, goodness, what are you doing in here? Oh, Mom, Mother. Still looking at that painting, are you? Yes, there's something about it. You agree with me, don't you? It's a wonderful proposition, but your brothers never seem to want to listen to me. We'll have to return the painting to the Castagnets. And after they went through all the trouble. Indeed. But all that aside, it's time for supper, Michel. We're celebrating Didier's return tonight, so don't you dawdle. We need to be there and show him how much you love him. Yes, Mother. I will be right down. Don't keep us waiting. It's been bothering me. Why I couldn't take my eyes off the painting of the Castagnet girl. But I think I've figured it out. That forlorn look in her eyes. There was more than resignation in those eyes. A trace of longing lurked within them as well. She was looking out at a faraway world, distant not only in physical location from our own, but in time as well. A boundless dream dwelled in her heart. I found myself slipping into her place, fantasizing about that same distant land. A place where I was allowed to be myself. And if by some chance I were able to make it there, would I find you there? Noemi? Exactly. Damn, Michael's hot, but that kind of phobia is getting in the way. I think we made pretty good friends. Don't you? Those were his last words before disappearing into the darkness. Their time together was brief, and they knew nearly nothing of each other. So could they in fact be called friends at all? Could you be friends with someone so nearly a stranger you didn't know where they came from or who they truly were beneath the surface? Had they known, though, were they aware of each other's inner selves, never would they have been able to become friends at all. We made pretty good friends. It was precisely because the two knew nothing that they were able to know each other. Michael deserved a friend. All right. So we finished Assento Dele. And I guess we get into Happily Ever After? After. Um, Really quick, I'm going to end the stream so I can change the title. Be right back.